Okay, this is the new McLaren 720. Oh, hang on. Meet the new McLaren 765 LT.
Ollie.
Right, welcome to the new McLaren 750S. The updated V8 supercar from McLaren that looks pretty much the same as the old V8 supercar from McLaren. So that was a goat. That was about as good as modern supercars got. Which makes me wonder, what makes this worth the upgrade?
Yep, after 6 years on sale, the 720S has been retired, or rather revamped into this, the 750S. You can have a coupe for £243,500 or a Spider for an extra £24,400. This is still powered by a twin turbocharged 4-litre V8 pushing along a carbon tub. McLaren admits that less than a third of this car is actually new parts. And as I'm sure you know, McLaren is constantly kicked for building cars that look the same, sound the same, and go the same. So why is the 750S worth the upgrade? Upgrade number 1, more power.
Do you remember when the McLaren P1 came out about 10 years ago? Oh, it makes me feel old. And people wondered, what would that be like without the big, heavy battery and the electric motor and all the hybrid gubbins? What if it was purely petrol? I think it might have been something like this. Good Lord, it's a rocket sled! You see, the V8 in the back of the P1 made 737 horsepower on its own. Guess how much power a 750S makes, maths fans? So this thing's got more power than a P1, it's got more torque than a P1's engine did, and it's about 100 kilos lighter. So what they've done for the 750 is take what was already a deliriously, stupidly fast car and rub, I don't know, nitro-methanol chili powder on its bum crack. There's torque everywhere, there's more power than you could ever hope to reasonably use. I mean, yeah, I know there's faster stuff, isn't there? There's a Lamborghini Revuelto or a Ferrari SF90 with another 250 horsepower, but they're another £250,000. You need to go faster than this. 230, 240, 250, 260, 270. It's an unstoppable force. Actually, it is stoppable because the brakes are absolutely wild.
But where the hybrid hypercars are adding kilos, McLaren is desperately trying to shave them off. The 750S is 30 kilos lighter than a 720 and almost 200 kilos lighter than a 296. And that's thanks to stuff like forged wheels, thinner glass, racier seats, a new exhaust, and even cutting 1.8 kilos from the instrument binnacle. But I'll get back to that in a moment after upgrade number 2, even cleverer suspension.
Yes, McLaren has potentially dabbled with perfection here because they've retuned the suspension, not just to make the components themselves lighter, but this is softer at the front and a little bit stiffer at the rear, and that supposedly makes it more comfortable and compliant on the road. Don't know about that. We're in Portugal today, we can't find a bumpy road. No, unlike the Arturo, which has actually lost a little bit of that McLaren magic carpet feeling, this is still in comfort mode, unbelievably compliant, just like your 720S was. Oh, okay. And on the track, well, you probably do need to be a McLaren test pilot to feel the benefits. Mind you, I don't know this track particularly well. I've done about 5 laps now and I'm still pointing in the right direction, so should we give a tick to the chassis?
Right, I think we'll go and have a look at something that's changed noticeably. Sort of. A bit. Upgrade number 3. The looks.
Okay, before it rains and this fills up with water, let me show you everything McLaren says is different about the outside of a 750S, and you can see if you think it's worth being called a whole new car. So, bigger front splitter and body-coloured mouth section, which used to be grey on the 720. New Artura style vents here, new lighter alloy wheels, new badge, says 750S. Would have been embarrassing if they'd left the old one on. Down here, this intake, it was always there, but it's now bigger because the more powerful engine needs a bit more cooling, and well, that's why there's loads more holes in the back of it. That's what you get if you buy a 750S, you get more holes in the car. There's loads more mesh round here, mesh there, mesh around the back. You've got holes, well, extractor vents I should say, in the rear wheel arch, and the exhaust is a channel tunnel inspired by the back of the P1. And that's the noise it makes. Now, on a P1 you had a huge rear wing. This one isn't quite as big, but it's bigger than the one on a 720 and it's lighter because carbon fibre, more downforce. But the best Easter egg, this slot here, this cutout, that is to give you some rear visibility when it pops up vertically, acting as an air brake. So you check the rear view mirror and you can see the Audi RS3 driver who's been tailgating you as he wallops you up the back end.
If you're a supercar spotting expert, then you might find these subtle tweaks a little bit underwhelming, but you've got to remember that the 720S still looked like a spaceship even when it went off sale. That teardrop glass house, the hidden intakes, it's a stunning piece of packaging, and I still reckon those eye socket headlight intakes are just so menacing. It's not new, and from some angles it's not even that pretty, but it is exotic, and for me I have to say much more interesting and fresher looking than the much newer Artura. Right, what else is new? Upgrade number 4, a user-friendly interior.
There's also been a load of useful new tweaks inside the 750S. So let's start up here because the mode switches have moved up to the instrument binnacle, these rockers and buttons, just like the Artura. And when I first saw them, I thought, ugh, what a gimmick. But actually, having spent some time with the Artura and now this, I get on really well with this setup. Just keeps your hands and your eyes up here where you want them when you're driving. It does mean though that because this is all fixed up here, the 750S has lost one of the 720's little Easter eggs. Do you remember how the screen here used to fold down when you selected track mode and just showed you the rev counter and the speed? Well, that's gone, but McLaren say don't worry because that has saved some weight, their favourite thing, and because this isn't all motorised and hinged, it's more refined. Basically, it rattles less. Next, the touchscreen is a big improvement because it is so much more responsive, and you at last get Apple CarPlay, though no Android Auto, I'm afraid, Samsung people. It's getting there. It's finally getting to the point where a McLaren has a touchscreen inside it that you might want to use. There are still some problems though, like the cup holder's quite tight, and this armrest is incredibly difficult to open, and it reveals a hole that isn't quite big enough for your iPhone, which is a bit annoying now there's a point to plugging it in. Lastly, you see this little guy here, the Speedy Kiwi? That's basically a nod to McLaren's New Zealander heritage, but it's basically an individual mode. It's what a McLaren's never quite had. You've always had to go into the active panel and then turn your comfort and your sport and your powertrain and your track and your handling. It's all been quite complicated, as you can tell. Now you just set everything as you want it, you press and hold Mr. Kiwi and he saves your settings for when you're on your favourite road or your favourite racetrack. Right, let's go and make some noise.
Upgrade number 5, a more exciting noise.
Well, the exhaust is 2.2 kilos lighter than a 720S pipe, and it has been meticulously tuned to give you the right frequencies and none of the wrong ones. Apparently, I'm not enough of an audiophile to understand why, but I just know that it's now one big pipe rather than two smaller ones, and they reckon it's less droney on the motorway, and it really rewards you for chasing that 8,500 RPM red line. And as you might have heard on the track earlier, it is a little bit crisper, and give it some revs. ultimately, this engine's emotional state is more about fury than passion. It's more of a kind of bwah than a la. But do we mind about that? Are we surprised? I mean, to me, any flat plane crank V8 with twin turbos isn't that musical. It doesn't matter if you're on a Ferrari F8 or a Mercedes AMG Black Series. None of them are that operatic to listen to.
Upgrade number 6, being less annoying to own.
So actually, it's all the tiny little detail tweaks in here that are going to be the 750S's biggest selling point. I mean, the touchscreen reacts so much faster. I plugged in CarPlay earlier on my phone and it worked. Unbelievable scenes in a McLaren. They've also fitted a new aerial, so you stand a fighting chance of getting some digital aerial signal now and again. There's a new Bluetooth module, so when your mates ring you, they won't phone the emergency services, presuming that you must have fallen down a mine shaft. And the hi-fi has been upgraded, so your music will sound better. There's also a new reversing camera, which is higher definition. Look, I know that is not going to make the 750S more bedroom poster material. No one's going, oh, I wonder how good the backup camera is. But you will be wondering that when everyone's looking at you and you're having to do a parking maneuver in a busy high street. Little things like that are what make supercars that are this easy to see out of and this easy to drive and this gratifying. It's what makes them usable. It's what's going to make you want to take this out of the garage and not that pesky Porsche. And best of all, the nose lift has gone from being a dreadful, slow, drawn-out affair which takes 10 seconds to raise, which is basically a month, to something which not only works now when you've got a bit of steering lock on, so if you've got a sharp driveway, no problem, but it now goes from flat to raised in just 4 seconds.
So no, the 750 isn't a mind-blowing, game-changing, epoch-defining new supercar that's here to rewrite rules. It's a carefully refined, revised exercise,
taking what was already a stupendous all-rounder, the finest achievement of McLaren Automotive so far, and just ironing out the wrinkles that spoiled what should have been just a perfect package. So I hope the 750S is more reliable. I hope that it doesn't depreciate like yesterday's newspaper. I hope that they've sorted out some of their build quality niggles, because McLaren know this. I've been talking to the guys behind the car today and they know this needs to be up there with the fit and the finish and the factory precision of a Porsche. See, McLarens haven't had that yet, and I hope they can nail that with this, because everything else is here. And then you've got one heck of a complete package of an all-rounder supercar, whatever it's called.